Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Good morning, G.
Hey, what's up, my brother? Hey, I have something funny to tell you. So,
what's that?
back in the day, I used to travel a ton. I was 1K. I flew 150,000 miles. I was always in an airport, right? Which was awesome, because that was where the party was.
Were you first class too?
Oh, all the time.
Okay.
And well, because you're 1K, they just, bump you and they really take care of you. But it was literally a party, and from one airport to the next, and all I had to, I'd go to L.A. for an hour and a half meeting. I'd fly from Chicago to L.A. and then have my 1.5 hour meeting, and then it's, the next day I had a meeting in Manhattan at 2.
Wow.
So I got, 28, 30 hours of party time, right? I just had to, all calculated, right? So now I travel a ton, back traveling a ton again. I just hit 1K again, and it's funny because I have built so many guardrails in the airports, and I tell people, I'm like, look, hey, I just don't drink, right? I'm on the sober path, and so that when you tell people that, it builds a guardrail. But I was talking, I had a guy boozing next to me this week. I mean, just cocktail after cocktail, and he goes, "What's up with you, man? You don't have a cocktail?" I'm like, "No, I drank my fill years ago." I said, "I haven't had a drink in over 10 years." He goes, "Man, how do you live life?" I looked at him. I'm like, "I live life awesome."
Yeah.
And then the flight attendant overheard that. I'm like, "Yeah, did you remember 10 years ago when I quit, United's profits skyrocketed? Skyrocketed because they didn't buy my booze anymore?"
That's right. Well, it's funny. I flew to North Carolina. My good friend Tony is moving to North Carolina, retiring out there, and so we did a quick jaunt out there to pick up the keys for his new place and fly back. I mean, it was 24 hours in and out. And we get to the airport, and I said, "Dude," and he said, "What?" I said, "It's Bloody Mary time." And he said, "I know, Bloody Marys are great when you're traveling, aren't you?" I said, "Yep, and I expect nothing less of you." This is probably the only Bloody Mary he'll have in 3 years, And so that was me. I'm like, it's part of traveling. A bloody is part of traveling.
Different world, man. You see everybody glued at the bar stools, and I'm like, that used to be me.
And it's not cheap either, by the way. You get a drink now, and you take a monthly payment
when you have 20 free drinks in first class.
Right. All right, enough of the war stories. So
guardrails.
Super stoked to be back in the coffee shop this week. We last week was wonderful. And Jermaine decided to come back. I don't know. We didn't scare him away. Did we scare you away yet, Jermaine?
No, we didn't.
Not at all. I want to be a part of the podcast now.
Oh, there we go. Table for 3 every day. I love that. Yeah, really good stuff last week. If you haven't had a chance, go back and listen to last week's episode. We kind of got to know Jermaine and a bit about his journey. But today I thought we'd get you back because there's still so much stuff that we can talk about that we talked about on the phone a couple of weeks ago. And so wanted to have you back. You're an author. We talked a lot about that last week.
Autopsy of My Former Self.
Autopsy of My Former Self. Where do people buy the book, by the way?
Love it.
So right now you can get the book on all major platforms: Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Target, Walmart, Goodreads. Just about everywhere you can get it online.
Okay, there'll be a link in our resource room to the book.
Yeah, totally. So question, did you do the artwork on the book?
I was going to say that.
I did.
He's an artist.
I'm just putting one and one together.
That's right. That's an expense he checked off. Oh, don't need cover art. Don't need cover art.
Artist. That's awesome.
So you're an artist. Let's talk. We didn't never even brought that artist, author, and so tell me a little bit about your art. You got a couple pieces behind you now. People can't see it. You brought them into the coffee shop. Let me set the stage right. They're beautiful. They're beautiful.
Thank you.
I guess what I'd like to focus on is, and we've done it. It's been a long time, but we've done a couple episodes on this. There's a part of me that I unleashed 7 years ago, the creative side of me, that I always thought I was creative, and I would dabble a little bit when I was out there, but I was a grandiose thinker and a non-finisher, right? So now I'm not a grandiose thinker. I just do the next little right thing. I write a paragraph, right? So, or draw or play a little music. I'm not looking to be, George Winston on the piano overnight. I'm not looking to be Pablo Picasso overnight. I'm just doing my little part. Do you find your art to be cathartic? Do you find your art to be an expression now grander for you in your sobriety than it was when you were? And I'm assuming that you were an artist prior to your recovery.
That's a great question. So I started off as a child. I fell in love with art. I always say that art chose me. I didn't necessarily choose art. And as a kid, 3 and 4 years old, I started just sketching on pieces of paper around the house. Mm-hmm. And when I'm watching Disney movies, like most kids are watching it for the story, I would assume. But I was really paying attention to the animation. And I was fascinated with the idea of 150,000 cells would make 15 seconds of film. And that intrigued me. And so I just began to sketch and draw. And then as I got older, in my teenage years, it became less cartoons and more comic books. But believe it or not, I didn't pick up a paintbrush or a pencil or anything from the years of 18 till I got sober in 2013. So between the years of 18 and 33 years old, I didn't touch art at all. And it was because I just didn't feel like there was a future in it for me. Hell, I didn't even feel like there was a future in it for anything for me at that time.
Right.
And then so art became a part of my therapy and as a part of my recovery. So when I'm sitting home and I can't walk and I'm mentally drained and I'm physically drained and I'm thinking about my next steps in life, I had worked in hospitality in Napa Valley for 10 years at that point. And so I was around alcohol all the time. And so I didn't even think that I could get back into that world because I wanted to change my environment so that I can keep my sobriety up. So I was like, well, let me just give this painting thing a chance. Then you had mentioned earlier about, the stock market, right? If you keep putting money in, eventually you're going to receive a dividend. And that's how I started to approach my life in art. I kept showing up, building compound interest in the art world. I looked up one day and I had art collectors, purchasing my art. I was going to art fairs and I was doing these things. Then a reality kicked in, like, oh my God, this is turning into a career. Like, how did I go from this rock bottom, the lowest part of my life, to now living a life of purpose? How did I do this? And so that's that's the genesis of how the art came in my life.
Wow, that's outstanding. So how much time, you just wrote a book. I mean, there's only so much room in the hose. So you just wrote a book. Did you have any time to do your art?
I did. So I have major collectors at this point around the world, from professional athletes and celebrities to the corporate world. And so I just make time for everything. It took me almost 3 years to write the book. So I was taking my time with it, as well as just knocking out project after project. So when I'm locked into a project, I'll stay in the studio for a week, 10 to 12 hours a day. And because it doesn't feel like work, I'm never fatigued mentally or physically.
Wow.
So I'm always just creating. And then I just move on to the next project. Now I do get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but I do utilize the additional 16 hours. Like I use every single minute to go after my purpose.
Isn't that something? And when you go to bed at night, for me anyway, I feel exhausted in such a wonderful way. That feeling, and I can really, truly still, and it's been 7 years, but I can remember passing out, that exhaustion of alcohol-induced exhaustion, and it was murky and muddy. Now I go to bed and I'm like, I'm exhausted. I mean, I don't watch TV. I don't do things that people do. I don't unplug. I'm grabbing as much as I can out of the moments. And I go to bed exhausted, but in a great way. It's such a blessing. It really is.
So you said something that really resonates with me, and Jermaine, we're part of a men's group. It's more of a spiritual group. Half the guys are from AA.
We use the F word.
Yeah, and we meet on Monday nights. We got like 23 guys, 24 guys in our group, and we're always talking about purpose. Living for purpose, and for 50 years, I'm old, so for 50 years, I lived life without purpose. I lived as a chameleon. I was off. And now when I was 11 years ago, I did the Purpose Driven Life book by Rick Warren. And that really, it comes down to, love God, serving others. That's really what that came down to, right? And I started to do that. I'm on the slow train. It took me a long time. But one of the things, and you really reiterated it for me, when you're living your purpose, it's not work. When you're living your purpose, it feeds on itself. It fuels itself. And I have found there's always another gear. The more you live your purpose, it just feeds on itself. And it's, I could almost write a book just on that. So many examples of, 4 years ago, and Mikey can attest to this, I thought, I'm at my max. And I'm probably doing 3 times what I was doing then, right? It's just crazy. So I love when you said living a life of purpose. And I think sobriety is the foundation or entranceway or baseline for that.
Yeah, I thank you for sharing. I found that I was, through sobriety, I was just so much more clear-headed, and I found myself so much more focused, and I was able to lean into my discipline. And because of, those qualities that I knew that I had, I just had to really dive into them. I was able to create a life that most would envy at this point.
Right.
I've created this beautiful life of creation where I have art and I have, this book and a restaurant consulting business and I'm doing all these things that I love to do. So it never feels. The other day, somebody was like, "Man, you work so hard." And I was like, "I don't feel like it."
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't feel like I work a hard day in my life because it's everything I love to do.
So can I ask a crazy question, non-sober question?
Yeah.
I love the fact you're an artist. I think that's really cool. And you're really at a cool level, right? You're in demand, right? And there's a lot of artists that are pushing. Was it attraction, not promotion, right? And you've attracted all this. How do you price your art? Is it by like does the buyer price it based on their perceived value and you negotiate a price, or how does it work out like that?
That's a great question. So early on in my art career, it was something that I was nervous to even talk about or share.
Mm-hmm.
At that point in your life, when you're starting and you're beginning something, you don't really know your true value. There's a material cost, like an item cost.
Yep.
But you don't know what the perceived value is, as you mentioned. And you just have to continue, because at the end of the day, anything that's for sale or anything that you're purchasing is what someone is willing to pay for it.
Right.
And so what I started to do was I started to realize that this is the creativity from the divine, right? This is an art piece. This is a painting. People value that. It increases in price, right? So it's an asset. And so I started to really price my paintings based on what the market was bearing, right? So I did a comprehensive analysis on what artists doing the same genre of art, the same size art as I was doing in a 100-mile radius or 500-mile radius. What were they selling their work at? And then I just based it off of that. And then you just continue to increase your value. And then you start getting into the situation where you start meeting individuals that have the money to just, pay what you're asking for. And so you get into a whole nother market for that.
Well, here's what I noticed. There's art everywhere, right? But I looked at the cover of your book and I'm like, that's sexy, right? That just stood out to me as something different, and it really caught my eye and caught my attention. I'm like, wow, and so, but I sit there and say, I guess it's like everything in life, right? If you look at a piece, might say, man, that's priceless, and then I could say, I could do that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just crazy. I saw a piece last night. It was like $43 million, and I literally thought, blue and a white stripe down the middle, I can do that,
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, right? So I just think it's cool, man. It's cool that you have gone from rock bottom to now living purpose in these different pods. And I didn't know about the restaurant consulting business, but and you're strong in every one of them. I just, including sobriety. I think sobriety is a superpower, and I think you're proving that from sharing and unrolling or unpacking part of your story. I think it's great.
Yeah, and I think that's really the three of our stories. I mean, what I'm achieving today is extraordinary. It was beyond my other capability. I didn't think I had it. Glenn, the same that you said about, is the same that can be said about you. You are just overachieving, if you will, in multiple areas in your life. You're getting things done, and I don't know how you do all that in 16 hours. It blows me away. But you're not exhausted.
I get my 7 hours sleep just like Jermaine does.
Right. So how does somebody find out about? I mean, and again, how does somebody find out about your art? I mean, do you have a website that showcases your artistry?
I do. So it's essentially JermaineDanteArt.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Jermaine Dante _art. Mm-hmm. And that's where I'm really, really active. I mean, the website is active, but, right. Social media is where I'm the most impactful, whether it's sharing my stories of an event, I've auctioned off a painting, whether it's me demonstrating and showing some work that's work in progress, a finished project. Right now, cool. Obviously, I've been promoting the book more than the art, but I still plug my projects in there. I think I have 4 commission pieces to try to knock out by the end of this year, which I'm working on.
Wow, that sounds like a big step.
According to Glenn, all you need is a paintbrush and a 1-inch wide rule so you can be done.
Jermaine, I'm a nut, man, but I literally sat there and I can do that.
Yeah, right. Wow,
and trust me, there have been times in my career where I've seen someone's painting go for 2, 3, 4, 40 million, and I think to myself, I don't necessarily say I can do that, but I think to myself, why didn't I do that?
Well,
I say that a lot too.
And may I suggest that it's maybe because you're still alive? I don't know. It's that whole artist thing. I mean, I'll be owning your $43 million art. You'll be 6 feet under.
I'll be out of here.
Right.
But so the fragility of life, right? That's why I have chosen. If you notice, I've chosen to create things that will outlive me. Right? That everything is a physical testament that I existed on this planet. So if you look at the art will outlive me. If you look at the book, it'll outlive me. My restaurant consulting business, no, that won't live without me. But there's still some remnants that I existed. And it's really about my children too, right?
I was just going to bring that up. Yep.
It's about my children seeing me go from nothing to where I've become today, and hopefully an inspiration in my own life for my children. Art was therapy for me. It was a way for me to begin the healing process within. And, a lot of times we'll do things based on a reward system. And what was helping me with my purpose is I kept getting rewarded, and I kept manifesting. I started reading for the first time in my life after sobriety. And I started reading books from like Dr. Joe Dispenza about manifestation. And I started reading, books about life-changing things and discipline and the 4-hour work week and all these books. And I started to just apply that information to myself. And I started seeing the results. And because I started seeing the results, I just kept going and going and going. And I'm still on that path now.
Are you proud of yourself?
Very much so.
Man, that's a wonderful answer. Boy, that's a wonderful answer, man. Oh. That's great. Well, we will make sure that we have all your links in the resource room.
Right. Yeah, I'll make sure I have the Instagram one if that's the way to do it. So when this airs, anybody who's driving along now, don't crash in the middle of the road to write down the contact points. They'll be in the resource room off the website. You can click a link right to the Instagram or click a link right to the website. We'll have it drop in there for the book. What's the one thing, I guess, that you'd like the listeners to walk away from? The one thing that Jermaine, the one impression you want to leave people? And it could be 1, 2, 3 things, whatever it is. I'll shut up and listen.
Yeah, I appreciate you. The one thing that I would love, anyone that's battling chemical dependency, and or just struggling with complacency or comfortability, because sometimes that could be just as addictive as someone that's on that's chemically altering their reality. I would like to just share that I'm a normal human being that puts his pants on like everyone else, but it was through my focus and my discipline and my drive to want more for myself that I've been able to turn my life around. So I just want to be, of an encouragement to those that are trying to find their purpose and trying to find their way, that just stay the course. Just keep showing up every single day. Keep promoting yourself. Keep pouring into yourself. Keep speaking life into you, and you'll start to see your life change.
Man, that's great.
That is really rock solid advice. Really rock solid
Jermaine,
advice.
thank you so much for coming in, man. Great to connect. I'm glad we connected out there in the social media space. I just love your energy. I love what you're doing. I love your purpose. Living life on a purpose.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time with us. We appreciate it. We're going to follow you along on Instagram. And
let's stay connected.
Maybe one day down the road we'll get you back on and you can tell us about, I don't know, a third thing that you're doing now. I don't know, building buildings. I have no idea.
I'm getting new office space and I got a lot of blank walls.
That's right. There you go. Thank you very much, man.
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you. Let me say this one thing, please. We don't know when we're going to leave this planet, right? And the one thing that you don't want to have is a long list of regrets of things that you should have did. Mm-hmm. So when you see me building these things and being creative, it's because I want that list to be so short that it's not even a list. I want to be able to max out everything I've ever done. And I also encourage folks to write out things that they think that they would regret and start knocking those things out, because you never know when you're about to check out.
Dude, that's great.
Love that. Be careful, everybody.
I will take that to heart. Thanks, man.
Jermaine.
Thanks, Jermaine.
All right, thank you, guys.
All right, peace out, man. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.